Hey, hi everybody, or whomever ends up watching this. Uh, my name is, if you want to pronounce it the Spanish way, is Gemma, or if you want to say it the English way, is Gemma Parra Gomez, or Para Gomez. um, I personally like to roll my R's, Parra. But anyway, Parra means actually that's my last name. That means grapevine, and I have a strong connection to the grapevine. So those of you who know what that's about, but otherwise I'm not going to get into it right now. But right now I just wanted to say a quick hello before I lose my nerve, and I want to share a story with you as my first sort of upload, video upload for YouTube. And I just, in I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to end up doing with all of this. I don't know um, what format I'm going to have. I mean, as you can see right now, this is nitty gritty raw coming at you, sort of stuff, because I don't have the technological advances or the equipment or the editing stuff to make it all pretty and sparkly and shooting rainbows out of my ass for you and all this other shit. But you know what? We're gonna keep it real because that's how I am. That's who I am anyway. Okay, so and if you know me, you know that. So um, let's keep it real, and that's a good way to start. Me real. Look at me. No uh, makeup, just au naturel, coming at you from my living room after an exhaustive fucking day trying to get the cojones to put this together to share with you. So, at minimum, I hope you appreciate that. Oh my god! But anyway, seriously. Okay, so yeah, I'm a bit. You're getting the tired, Hema, but you're getting the truth as always, and you're getting my heart as always with a capital H. And what I mean by that, if you don't know, is that I strive to give you my sacred heart. I strive to be in my sacred heart so as to share that with all others as much as possible on my path. And that's all I can do, you know. Anyway, so um in the future, I may share about some of these pieces. Her back there, this Kundalini beauty, she's a wild grapevine. And then this back here, which was painted by a gifted spirit artist, soul brother named Tanner, and I've written about it in my Facebook profile um, and my group on Facebook, Mind Body Soul Evolution. And if you wanna read these stories and other stories, it's I've tagged it all with I guess I'll add it to the comments here, but I've tagged it with hashtag Chronicles by Confessions, and I'll, like I said, I'll put it in the comments here. I'm new to this. Look, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm fucking doing it anyway. Okay, all right. So yeah, moving on. I think you get that. And then this piece here with Jimi Hendrix, a message from Jimmy um, to me and to the world at large. Which, if you don't know me and you don't know about it, also it was painted by a beautiful soul sister, Jamie Holland, and years actually before Tanner's piece, which they both have striking similarities with the lion and the grapevines and the rainbow. One of the sets of grapes is rainbow colored, and um, you see the rainbow is on the golden chariot right there, on Jimmy's golden chariot, and being drawn by the golden lion. And you know And again, painted by two different artists, years apart, and with the grapevine symbology. Oh yeah, the grapevine, the giant grapes all around Jimmy's chariot. So with a divine masculine and divine feminine in the chariot. Anyway, if you can't see it, it's fine. We'll get to it another time. But for now, for today, for this first video upload, what I really wanted to share is a story that is very near and dear to my heart, and is a story of my first near-death experience at age 6. And yes, I said my first near-death experience. And yes, I said at age 6. I suppose it's not funny. Anyway, I will be sharing the second. Technically, I've had more than two, but two during which I needed to be resuscitated. The second one was when I was 15. I attempted to commit suicide. Yes. And I'm told that's rather rare for someone to have a near-death experience as a result, and come back from the other side as a result of an attempted suicide. And so in light of that, I've had a very wonderful, beautiful doctor tell me that she feels it would be very healing for me to share my stories, my experiences with others that could find peace from hearing them. And so it is in that vein that I choose to begin these sets of conversations here on this platform I started, or whatever, created on YouTube here, called Mind, Body, Soul Evolution, which, yeah, it's a term that I thought about extensively, and I liked it a lot. But honestly, fuck the labels, because what am I talking about? I'm talking about, what is a mind, body, soul evolution? How does one undertake a mind, body, soul evolution? I want to talk about, your path. I want to talk about my path. I want to talk about everybody's path, and all paths are respected, of course. And each person's path is unique, and that's beautiful. And I think we learn from each other when we are able to openly share and discuss about these and other spiritual, religious, ideological, and otherwise, belief systems held by humanity. If we can't talk about things without and getting antagonistic or righteous, or vindictive, or combative, or attack each other, then what are we doing? I mean, what's the point? I'm wasting my time. We're all wasting our time trying to even begin these conversations, aren't we? But there is a way. So that's why we do what we do, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm pushing through the fears in order to believe me, this is not fucking easy for me. This is fucking woo! Like, oh yeah, okay. Well, that's for another video, maybe. but I can tell you that no, it's not easy, but there's a lot of things that many people do way outside their comfort zones, and those are the things that end up being of some sort of value to somebody. So let's do this, okay? All right. So okay. So for my first share. I want to share with you about my near-death experience at age 6. I was in Sydney, Australia, and I was living with my mother, who was a single mother at the time, who was financially challenged, very much so. And we rented a small efficiency apartment that was in the back of a Greek family's home. And I lived there for some time. I'm not sure how long. There are parts of that part of my life that are a little bit hazy. Um, Anyhow, so I I digress. Basically, my mother um, saw that I had become ill, and as she explains to me, because I myself don't remember all the details exactly, and she has not exactly been forthcoming, to be perfectly honest, because her and I have had this tumultuous relationship, and it's unfortunate, but then it's not, because we're, I've found a way to be grateful for it all. So, because it's all helpful on the path ultimately. But okay, so my mother decided to pay this street doctor to come and evaluate me, and he did. According to her, this man came over and checked me out and gave me a shot of something, and then gave her some pills and told her to give them to me at certain intervals, and left. And apparently, it is at this point that, shortly after he left, that I went into convulsions, and my eyes rolled into the back of my head, and my mother began to rush me to the hospital. And so here on the way to the hospital is when at some point I died. It's not funny. I'm sorry. It's funny. You know what? It's funny. You have to be able to laugh about it, right? Okay, so okay, so this is where I'd really like to get a little bit serious and be able to express what I saw, what I experienced in the best way possible. So here we go. Let's just dive in, shall we? Yeah, let's do this. So I began by having the classic OBE, or out of body experience, in which, I saw my body from outside of my body, and I keep looking down because I saw from a perspective that seemed to be about approximately 30, 40, maybe 50 feet above the car. And it was as though I was a camera following above, from above the vehicle, from above the car, as she was making her way to the hospital. And one of the things I'd like to share here that I found interesting is that the moment I, because I was looking at the top of the car, the roof, and the moment I desired to see inside the vehicle and see inside, the car, it happened. It occurred. It was, like a, um, I just, I found it interesting because it was like the will just was immediate manifestation from it. It was great. It was beautiful. Anyway, so then we went on, and I saw my body sprawled out on the car seat. And as we were traveling, it was raining, And one of the things that I observed was that as my mother took a turn at one point, this was again in Sydney, Australia, and I don't know, it was raining. As she took this one turn, she skidded and um, scraped the side railing, which at the time, those bulky metal ones, that's basically what they had, whatever. And the vehicle came to a stop, and she just kind of put her head down on the steering wheel and was washed over by this intense feeling of defeat, just total and utter defeat. And I remember for me at that moment, up until then, it was so interesting because up until then, I had been following the whole scene, following along, but it was as though I was just kind of curious. There was no emotional attachment to any particular aspect of what was happening or unfolding in front of my eyes, I guess, because there weren't real eyes. Anyway, but, and I just was kind of more like, oh, that's interesting. That's curious. And so I, continued up until that point where I felt her despair. It wasn't until then that I did not feel anything that even began to resemble suffering until that moment. And it was at that moment that I felt these, it's best way to put it is kind of like giant hands, although they weren't, just sort of grab me and pull me away from that scene. Now I've heard and I've read accounts of other people's near-death experiences in which they see a tunnel, a light at the end of the tunnel, they pursue it. Other people see other things. There have been all kinds of reports and experiences, but I didn't decide to follow a tunnel or decide to, it was just, as I said, it was this feeling of being grabbed and pulled away from that scene so that I would not be observing that suffering. That's what was conveyed to me at that moment. And so anyhow, I got yanked away, and through this rainbow bridge, wormhole, tunnel. If you know Nassim Haramein's work too, um, it's he's one of the scientists who's been able to convey some of these concepts in the clearest manner as far as I can tell. So anyhow, from my direct experience, anyhow, I got pulled through this rainbow bridge tunnel, and where I got pulled to, well, it gets a little tricky there because there are people who refer to this sense of, there's like a transition that took place in which whatever was left of my being, because I was well aware that there was no longer any physical aspect to it, but what was left of it then began to sort of dissolve into the ethers, into the all. And the process was sublime. The feeling, I mean, to say, how in a lot of New Age communities, it is referred to as unconditional love. Yeah, okay. I'm here to tell you something, okay, because that doesn't even begin to approximate the feeling that it was, that it is. Anyhow, okay, so I began to dissolve into like a formless state of being from a form. That's the best way to put it. And I was absorbed, or okay, now it's sounding kind of like the Borg on Star Trek, you know, like resistance is futile. No, no, but seriously, it was like um, sublime, just beautiful, just anyhow, um, just as I was becoming, I don't even know how to put it into words. I mean, you see, you feel, you hear my struggle, right? Okay, because it's hard to put in human terminology. And so let's just say that I've conveyed in the best way possible what that simultaneous emotional charge was, and discharge in a way, because it was like also just this grand release and absorption and melting and melding and um, yeah. Anyhow, so at this point, or at what point? What point? You know, time. What is time? Time is uh, in some dimensions one of our physical decades are is really just a blink of the eye, a blink of an eye. I mean, seriously, that's how it is. That's exactly how it is. So, and a lot of you know this. So, okay, um, at this, at some point, I experienced these sort of giant hands begin to gather up my um, essence and recompose me, put me back together. Um, and then, you know, like just sort of, you know, until it was all gathered and just kind of put together and like gently, lovingly, um, uh, held is the best way to put it. Except, again, it doesn't even begin to approximate the feeling. And and the love. So, um, I forgot to mention. I forgot to see. It's just there's so much, because as I was melting too, there were these lights, is the best way to put it. Billions and billions of lights that were comprised of colors that you know, like, and yes, you read about this in other near-death experiences, and it just is. It is. There are colors that I have not seen here on this physical plane, okay? And um, anyhow, going back to the hands that had gathered my essence back together and lovingly cupped me as one might cup uh, a firefly at summer momentarily and then re-release, you know, that sort of thing. Okay, so as I was cupped, I perceived, I saw, I could see, I could tell. No words really are appropriate, are they? Anyway, I began to see that we were going back across this rainbow bridge, you know, and transcending. but at the same time conversing. And here's the thing, you know, I've heard it referred to as telepathic communication, but that doesn't even convey it appropriately, because telepathy implies that there's a two-way communication. There's a sender, a receiver, okay? And this was not that sort of dynamic. This was more of a blending and becoming one, and the communication resonating through both our beings simultaneously, if that makes sense. And the communication consisted of this, okay? Consisted of my being lovingly told that I was going to be going back. And though I was 6 when this occurred, I distinctly remember not wanting to come back. Does that sound fucked up? What's the truth? Okay, I didn't want to come back. And Goddess explained to me very lovingly that I did in fact want to come back, and that I would remember why I did want to. And it didn't make sense to me at the time. And I didn't fight it though. I was kind of like, okay. I was just an easygoing kid. No, I was not. In some ways, I was not. In some ways, I was. Anyway, okay. So, but it was that conversation with a capital C that was an initiation. It was one mother of an awakening, okay? And a piece that was left in me, I feel, even, you know, when I was lovingly brought back by the giant hands back across the Rainbow Bridge and transcending back into compressed, denser reality, you know, this, aka this physical domain, and just not wanting to go back, but understanding, or having some kind of something inside me recognize that it was true, that I had wanted this to begin with. Odd, right? Because even though I had this grand initiation at age 6, and you know, when the hands, when Goddess, infinite light, universal consciousness, source, whatever you want to call it, put me back into my physical body, I was not necessarily snap, snippity snap, awakened for the rest of this lifetime. No, I still had to undergo plenty of ordeals, tests, trials. I'm still, you know, this is still a process, an ongoing thing, an evolutionary dance taking place through a series of softer and grander, much more spectacular awakenings, let me tell you. And I am being called to share all of this, drop my masks, because as the water bearer I came here to be, to help everyone the best I can to ease into an Aquarian mindset, because that is what we are doing. That is, in fact, what we're here to do, right? So, hello. Who to better explain the Aquarian mindset than an Aquarian? Right? So, okay. And the water bearer here to, you know, do the Jimmy and the Tanner thing. Okay, thanks, Tanner. You're so amazing. You're like beautiful, enlightened soul, and Jamie too. You're lovely. Um, thank you so much for all the gifts that have been brought to me on my path, all the beautiful connections, and the, be they negative, quote unquote, or positive, because yes, I'm grateful for all the experiences, but I wanted to begin by sharing first this for my quote unquote first share on YouTube, and this from a real me in my living room, just here. This is what you get. You're getting unadulterated, unmasked, fucking tired because it took me forever to get this shit out, but I did it. And so here it is. Thank you. I hope I hope you enjoy, and I thank you for checking it out. If you do, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah, I am tired. Okay, so I'm gonna go get some sleep now, and I'm glad I got this done, and I'm glad I got to share, and hopefully I get to share a whole lot more, because I am ready to start these conversations, and would love to find more and more people who are also ready to have these heart-to-heart with capital H's conversations about how we can possibly begin to look at taking on more and more of this Aquarian mindset that is happening any fucking way. All right, this shift is on, and you know it. Most of you know it now. You know, so I'm maybe unconventional. I may be whatever I may be. I may not fit any single one of your expectations, but I will always be real. And I will always be trying my best to come from the heart with a capital H, and to be of service with a capital S. And I mean, again, I was clearly shown that that's all Goddess ever wants from us anyway. So, peace, love, and light, and much love from my heart to all of you on your journeys, on your paths, which are all beautifully unique, and all respected, no matter what they are, because we're all on this unique journey, or we're all on unique journeys. And as I've seen, honestly, to me at least, they all lead to the same place once we stop fighting it and stop fucking around and just surrender to the already built-in, beautifully natural flow that already dances through existence, if we just learn to dance along. So anyhow, that's the kind of conversation I'd like to be having, along with many others, about all these topics relating to mind, body, soul evolution. How do you undertake a mind, body, soul evolution, whether it be, through the mind, the body, the soul, through dropping each and every single mask, because that's another thing about the Aquarian age. No entering it with masks. So be prepared to be real too. If you've been judging me for being as real as I am, or condescending, or whatever, it's going to be a bit rougher for you, my friend, because this is the time for all of us to do this, and to do it as we are connected to our hearts and hopefully divinely aligned, or aligned with a divine mind or universal consciousness or a will to respect and honor life truthfully as we walk these paths together and attempt to co-create uh, this new earth from a holistic, loving perspective that we all know is what is coming down the pike anyway. That's what we've been revving up for anyhow. So why not just start? So I hope you've enjoyed my first share, and I welcome you to, I don't know. You know what? I don't know how the fuck do I close this thing? Does it, I don't, anybody know? Anybody have specific ideas? Because I don't, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway. Anyway, much love. Seriously, peace, love and light to you all with all my heart, always.